Do
This
that.
conference will now be recorded.
Everybody, the best way to make this work is everybody goes on mute. And when they want to speak, they raise their hand. Otherwise, we're going to get that echo every time somebody speaks or David takes a bite of his apple. Okay? So, Bill, you have to tell people to come off mute or we raise our hand to speak.
Yeah. Thanks, Tom. You said that actually last time and it was good advice. Appreciate it. All right, so I'll call the meeting to order. We are being recorded, and I guess this is what, our third or fourth Zoom meeting. It's a shame. I don't know when it's going to flip. I suspect as the weather is getting colder, we're not going to try anything outside. At a picnic table or anything, so I suspect this is the way it is for the rest of the year. Anyway, so on to business. Usually minutes is full of minutes, but I think we had a communication mix-up last session and we don't have minutes. Is that right, Tom Lockfeld?
Sorry.
I think that's right. I didn't hear Tom respond. You're on mute, but
yeah, I don't have minutes. No, I wasn't. I guess we didn't get agreed ahead of the meeting as to who would be doing minutes. So unfortunately, it was missed.
No problem. We all shall survive. So let me just get on with the chairman's report. I don't think this is going to be the longest meeting today unless other people have things to bring up. I've just got 5 or 10 minutes on the chairman's report, and then we'll move on down the agenda. Just 4 items, really. The first one will disappoint because I don't have a lot of information to reveal. We had the Unified Water Study grades revealed to us several days ago by Save the Sound. That was 4 years in the making, so sort of momentous. They discarded the first year, 2017, because of irregularities and sort of everyone was getting going. And they embodied 2 years of data, 2018 and 2019, in this year's report that will be released October 6th or 7th at a press conference. And we are sworn to secrecy on its results. So they had it was nice, they had a working group meeting for a preview for all the people who've been out there sampling for the last several years. And it was well done. It was a little quick, and I think that was intentional. They didn't want to dig into too many of the details prior to the press conference on October 6th and 7th. And while I'm sworn to secrecy, I'll give you a general overview, which I wish was better, and that is they grade the bays from like a report card, A to F. You know, a low score would be 60, a high score would be 100. And it'd be great if Darien got, you know, A's on everything. It didn't. We're rating Cove Harbor and Darien Harbor and the Scott Ziegler's and Fish Islands area. And unfortunately, we are about just average when you look across those 3 results. So getting an average grade in school, you know, wasn't what your parents wished when you came home with your report card. And so that's where we are. So you'll hear more details on the 6th and 7th of this coming month about that. And I think there may be, you know, good things that result about that, a little kick to us all to maybe do more to try to correct some things to make for better water quality. So that's about all I can say. I did agree to their secrecy so that their press conference in a sense of release can happen. So I'll let you all go ahead, Tom.
Did they give any indication of when they were going to release it?
Tom?
Yeah. Did they give any indication of when they were going to release the information?
Say it again.
Did they say when they were going to release the information? Lost you.
Yeah, sorry.
Bill, it seems like it's bandwidth that you're
cut out or something. October 6th and 7th or 7th. So just a couple week delay. I don't know what to say. Are we all slowed down? I have periodic freezing.
It's really you, Bill, who's freezing. Can you guys hear me okay without much delay?
Flip, I can
Yes.
hear you when your words match your mouth in your video.
Yep,
That's-
hear you. It's really just Bill.
Yeah.
And he just looks like he took his video off.
So can you all hear me actively now?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, we just can't see you, which could be good. But sorry.
It's fine. It's better to
So
hear
you
than
still have a dial-up modem, do you?
Okay, I'm gonna keep on going for a minute here. I hope this is gonna work. I've doing I didn't hear you, Flip. I'm sorry. All right.
Go ahead.
You can all hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
Nope.
Or
Yeah,
maybe no.
if you're talking, we can't hear you, Bill.
Yeah, okay. So, yes, October 6th and 7th is the release. I think I got the best of being okay. That's the best, but the others not so pleasing. So we can all react to them as they come out. Couple minutes. I hope it improves. We have
Yep.
coastal.
Bill, we're only hearing like one word out of 5 from you.
All right. Okay, can you guys hold just a minute?
sure.
For just a minute.
Gonna kick the kids off the modem?
Let's see if I.
I was talking to a friend of mine who works at Microsoft, and I said, well, how come Microsoft Office isn't as popular as Zoom? And he said that actually Zoom's software algorithm is great at managing bandwidth, and nobody else is even close to them. And that's what we're seeing right now.
Yeah, we're not really getting any guidance from the town about how long we're supposed to keep virtual meetings. I think they only have 2 of these GoToMeeting licenses, which can be hard to get. If we come back, they're not telling, they've just been stone silent in terms of giving us any help on this.
Yeah, we should all move to Zoom. The town should move to Zoom.
Yeah, but I think originally it was not considered to be secure.
I like,
I'm the only.
you're frozen, Bill.
I'm the only computer resource running in my house right now. I don't know if it's not working.
Well, minutes are going to be easy.
I'm not
Thank
sure
you.
if people are hearing me. Yes, raise your hand or not.
We're not hearing you.
Can't really follow what you're doing or saying.
You want me to give everybody, I have Zoom. You want to just,
Bill, if you're hearing us, why don't you consider dialing in by phone to the meeting? That probably will work.
Yeah, Tom, we can't switch to Zoom because this is a publicly noticed meeting with a phone number. So unfortunately, that's not allowed.
okay.
But Bill can dial in. I think that's a great idea, Frank, to have Bill dial in. if he can hear us.
If Bill drops
Okay.
off, does that disconnect does that disconnect everybody?
Probably.
That's a good question as well.
But he should be able to dial in and
I'll
then just
call it.
mute.
Yes, you need to dial in, Bill. Yes.
All right, let's give him a couple seconds. For the guys that are on the call by phone, are you hearing everybody else pretty much like normal telephone?
Yes.
All
Hey,
right,
just,
good.
just for the purposes of the minutes, who is caller number 1, 2, and 3? Or who is dialed in that I can't see? Dave Deaver.
Robert Filter.
We got Robert. Who else?
Still right.
Their third? Whoop.
That Bill?
Hello, Coastal Commission, yeah. Hi, Flip, you got control of the meeting, I think, on the go-to.
I thought
got
Bob
control?
Vilter was one of the people on the line.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, so the go-to meeting should have stayed intact. I flipped control over to Flip. And,
Yep,
then,
it's all
and I'm
good.
now a call-in. If that all works, we could keep going. Does everyone still seem on?
Yeah,
Yes.
we can hear you, Bill.
Yep, go ahead,
Say
Bill.
it
I
again?
think we can hear you well now.
Yeah, okay, I'm sorry about that. It's probably my neighborhood. Too many people watch movies. I don't know. Frustrating. So let's see. I think we got through the Unified Water Study. Everyone understood that the official results are coming out October 6th and 7th. And so we'll learn a lot more then about Darienne's average results. And I'll transmit those to everybody, although they'll be made public. But when they come out, I'll give you all a link and we can chat about that in the following meeting in October. So the other thing I wanted to mention is the Coastal Cleanup Day. We are reserved for Pear Tree Point Beach and Weed Beach to be the with the town. We've got those booked for ourselves, and we're reserved in the International Cleanup Day, which is something that Save the Sound runs. If you remember, we had Anthony Allen come to us from Save the Sound and talk about how they sponsor this and aggregate the cleanup data, classifying it and publicizing it. And my goal was not to have another affiliation with Save the Sound, but to, by itself per se, but to make use of that more powerful platform that they've wisely put together that amplifies, what people are doing for cleanup effort and then the results. And that can be tracked year to year and, can sound alarm bells if we keep on having to pick up more trash. Anyway, we're signed up for Pear Tree Point Beach and Weed Beach because the Mother's Daughter organization that had previously done it because of the pandemic had opted out this year, and I thought that was an easy one for us to first pick up. And it'd be great if we do something like this every year. But in any event, here's our opportunity in front of us this year. And October 3, just from 9 in the morning till noonish, I think. I wouldn't want to take more than that. It'd be great to split into two teams at Pear Tree and Weed Beach, respectively, and just pick up some trash, take a picture, log what it is, and be on with the rest of our days. And we've got several people. It'd be great to get another 2 to 3. So again, if you think you can spare 3 hours Saturday, October 3, it'd be great to see you down at one of the beaches, and I'll coordinate that with emails with people. Let's see.
Bill, it's Lori.
Yeah, sorry.
I'll mention it to the Parks and Rec Commission on Wednesday night, see if I can get any folks from our commission so they can just show up, or do they need to sign up if anyone's interested? I don't know whether they will or won't be.
Yeah, that'd be great, Lori. I appreciate that. Yeah, we're not trying to make it a crowded affair, but I think, to have 3 to 6 people at each beach, we're not going to have a socially distanced challenge time. We'll all be a small enough group to split up and just stand in a wide circle while we look at or take a picture of our trash we've picked up. So that would be absolutely great. I honestly don't know how much we'll find at the beaches, but therein is, in terms of trash, but therein is the thing that will be interesting if we get this going regularly to see how that changes over time.
Hey, Bill, if you guys are finding that Parks and Rec is doing such a good job cleaning up the beaches that there's not really anything to pick up, I can give you guys access to the beach in front of my house here, and people can walk up and north and south along Long Necks Point, down below high tide.
Well,
and there will be trash here.
I have to say, I was kayaking by the other day, and I did notice a few things that surprised me. One was a good-looking lobster buoy I almost stopped to pick up. But Flip, I think that sounds great. I appreciate that. And why don't we sort of see how that goes? But I'll chat with you more about that. Okay. I mean, I think it would be nice for us ultimately, and we talked about this and some of its challenges, for us to sort of hit a spot on the coastline every year and make sure we're covering the bases. Maybe a focus on Ziegler's one year, a focus on 5 Mile River. And you pointed out some good challenges to that, and I don't have answers to all those challenges, and that's why, for one reason, it's sort of nice just to do the beaches this year, a gentle entry. But
and then what the trash we pick up? Are we just leaving it there in the dumpsters?
Well, good question. Depends how much. But I've got a car which I can load up and take a couple trips back and forth to the dump if needed. But I think the thing would be nice if we took a PR photo of the group just doing it. Again, I think some of the publicizing of this effort is really the strong point of it. Create awareness. So I'd like us to get a group picture at the end. I think that'd be great with the trash we've picked up. If it has some drama to it, maybe there's some big pieces of something. I don't know, but so
Frank, you want
I think it remains to be seen.
Laurie and Bill, is there? Have you got a time and location that we should meet on the 3rd?
Yes. So why don't we just say at the moment Pear Tree Point, 9 a.m. on October 3. But depending on how many people we get, I was going to split us into 2 teams, David Kahn being the team leader at one of the beaches and myself the other. But just at the moment, if you think Pear Tree Point, 9 a.m. on October 3, that's a Saturday, that works. So I'll do another email on this, just trying to keep it a real simple, show up, work 1 to 2 hours or something, and then we do a PR thing at the end. Hey, Laurie, that's great, your offer. Thank you.
Okay. Well, I don't know if I'll get anybody, but I'll mention it.
Well, all the bodies help. So, and that's great. So, another item here. So, by virtue of sitting on the Coastal Commission, we have got a spot on the Long Island Sound Study Citizens Action Committee. Flip was attending those prior when he was chair, and I've been attending those and enjoying some of them. Some of them are rather bureaucratic, but this was an interesting one. In August, they had a little bit of a different meeting. They combined the Citizens Advisory Committee with what's called the Science and Technology Advisory Committee, so all the scientists on that one. So it was a combined meeting. It was about 30, 35 people, all virtual, of course. And it was the focus of this one that was interesting, and it's obviously a timely subject matter. It was all on environmental justice. And so the Long Island Sound Study has got a combined comprehensive conservation management plan, CCMP, that expired this year and is being revised for another 5-year plan. And they're all busy writing that away on the Long Island Sound Study. And as you might imagine, with all the social unrest and focus that has occurred over this last year, they're focusing greatly on one of the themes, which is environmental justice and communities-based sort of environmentalism. And it was interesting to see what that ended up turning out to be on that one meeting. Again, the CAC and the Science and Technology Advisory side all have decided to focus on access as the sort of key thing that the Long Island Sound study can do with regard to environmental justice. And by that access, they mean, allowing people who don't live in wealthy communities and can get beach stickers to be able to access the sound. And that's a long-standing issue on the shores of Connecticut. And I think it's a difficult one to tackle, but that seems to be what the Long Island Sound Study wants to do. And I think as a result, you'll be hearing more on that issue over the next coming year or so. I was going to give you a couple facts that sort of, I think, speak to the intransigence of the problem. Connecticut currently has 328 access points to the water, and they want to get another 33 access points, roughly 10%, by the year 2035. That's the Long Island Sound Study's goal. It's an ecosystem target that they have. So 328 access points now, and they want to increase it by 33 over the next 15 years. Since 2014, Connecticut's only added 2 additional access points. And New York in that same period has only added 1. So the sort of, locked up quality of our shorelines is pretty evident that way. And, how and what they'll do to change that, I don't know. But if the current milieu, continues, there's going to be a lot of focus on doing something about that. And the state is likely to get involved, I think. We had on the meeting Sarah Bronin, who is the wife of the mayor of Hartford and also a UConn professor of law. And she has a new nonprofit called Desegregate Connecticut, which is all about achieving better population and income and socioeconomic class mix within Connecticut communities, and she's on this issue as well, access being one of the elements that she seeks to change. So that was all just an FYI. I think it's an interesting trend and one that we're likely to hear more about in the coming months.
Hey, Bill?
Yeah.
It's Flip. Could I interject for a moment? Because I had actually something I wanted to raise that has to do with coastal access.
Sure.
And it's really, Lori, it's a question for you, which is, do you know who owns the little strip of land right to the south of Rings End Bridge that it's right along the side of Goodwives River? It's the town or something, but people have been using it a lot this year to park their cars on and also occasionally to fish. And it seems to me that we as a town could do more with that little strip of land, whether it's putting a little fishing pier from there, because that's really actually a pretty good area for fishing at high tide, or just for sightseeing. There's probably more parking places there that we could put in, but it's all to give people who don't live in the coastal areas access to a very pretty coastal area.
I believe the town owns it. It's definitely not a dedicated parkland. Because back earlier, maybe it was even last year, the committee that was running planning the 2020 celebration wanted to do different plaques and things, and they came to the commission asking to put a plaque at that site. And at that point, we told them that Parks and Rec did not control that site, and it was concluded that it was town property. I did see something, maybe it was in the police commission report, Flip, about the police department was going to put no parking signs up because they didn't want people parking there.
Is that the I'm not 100% certain, but I thought the police commission was involved with the parking on the other side, on the west side of Goodwise River, where you kind of come down into the dam. I thought that that's where what they were talking about, but I could be wrong.
You mean before the bridge?
Yes.
Yeah, it was my,
I don't think so, because that's private property.
right, it was my impression, and I've seen cars parked further south than the area that you're talking about, Flip. I've seen cars parked further south, like right on the road, which I thought personally was a little dangerous with all the walkers and all the traffic on that road.
But I guess regardless of what is kind of going on there right now, it seems to me that there might be an opportunity to re-envision that space more generally, and maybe grade some better parking so that, you know, it's not a problem there. But that's, you know, we think about town-owned real estate that is waterfront, other than the beaches, like that's it, and we're not doing anything with it as a town. So maybe that ought to be something we could all talk about and converse with other town people on, to see if there's any possibility to get more out of it.
Sounds like an Eagle Scout project to me. I don't know.
Well, we
I
need the
also asked-
permission first and no objection from the neighbors, which
Well, yeah,
I can envision happening.
there's nothing that we're going to do that is not going to get objected to. So
That it would be true.
I also asked the question at the meeting, the CAC meeting, are there various definitions of access, like restricted hours, you know, boat launch, boat ramp access, you know, prior to the 9 a.m. in the morning, you know, for early morning fishing and stuff. I just didn't know exactly what defined access and how, you know, when you hear of Connecticut only adding a couple over the last, whatever that date was, 2014, a couple access points. Well, could that have been expanded if you changed the definition and had more variability in how you granted access? And anyway, no one quite knew what the definition of access was either.
So, Bill, under what authority does this Long Island Sound study work? I mean, they can be interested in environmental justice, but do they have any teeth, or how do they affect change?
I think that's a good question. I have thought of them as more scientific in nature and helping to inform good public policy. This gets a little more into social welfare policy issues, which I think is a little different and a little new for them. And my sense is that they're trying to figure out a way forward. The states of Connecticut and New York have signed up to this group, and EPA belongs to it also, and a lot of funding comes through it. So it's one of the bodies that the state's chosen to work with. So I think it has the ear of the state, but obviously if this is laws or regulations, state of Connecticut, I would think, is its own jurisdiction.
Okay. Well, beach access is certainly something that we grappled with quite a bit this summer, as you can all imagine. So it's something we're going to have to do a lot more work around in the coming months.
Lori, on that,
Yes, Brett.
shouldn't the town sort of be in a position right now to, as opposed to opening beach access, to be limiting access even greater in these days of social distancing and concern of virus spread and everything happening? Like, shouldn't Darien be focused way more on Darien and only residents and only people who pay taxes and only people who, you know, provide trash takeout and things like that? And like, why open the door further when we're kind of all trying to protect our fellow residents, right?
Well, the laws are very specific and clear, and we were in touch and consult with Wayne Fox, town council, over the summer about this. Actually, legally, there are restrictions around denying anybody access to the beach. So we have to operate within the law. Under Jamie's executive powers that were granted by the governor during the pandemic, she did have additional authority to restrict access to the beach. And what we ended up doing during the summer was to restrict access to Darien-town residents on weekends only to control crowding. We did have parks monitors this summer, working 7 days a week, circulating in all of our parks to make sure that we did not have crowding circumstances and that where people were socially distancing and sitting far enough apart. And we really did not have a lot of issues with that, but we monitored it very tightly, and then we did close them down. And I will say we did that in reaction to Norwalk and Fairfield and Stamford and other towns and cities doing it first. Because once they made those decisions, we felt that that could put even more pressure on Darien's beaches as the remaining beaches that were remaining open to out-of-towners. But we were only able to do it, and it does remain in place under the executive authority specific to COVID. Other than that, we are very restricted in limiting access to non-Darien residents to our beaches.
All right. Well, thanks. Appreciate that.
I think it's sort of interesting how I think there are different time frames to these issues. Sort of the lack of public access is a long-term issue, and I don't think it. It's not necessarily this month or next month that you need to solve it, but you need to start chipping away at it and increasing and making life a little more equitable. And the pandemic and the urgencies around that, I think, are much shorter term. We all hope very short term, but maybe just 6 months, 12 months, 18.
And we did, for instance, receive quite a few complaints from people in town that they observed individuals parking at Hindley School and then walking down to use the beach. And that's absolutely correct. I look out that window all day, every day now since I work at home, and I witnessed it myself. I personally have no problem with it. If it's a nice Tuesday afternoon and people from another community want to walk down and pack a bag or roll a wagon down, which I saw done, and go and enjoy our beach and have access to the waterfront, I personally support that. I think that's right. Again, as long as we did not have crowding issues due to COVID. But there are many people in town who feel otherwise. Let's just put it that way. So, I mean, we did have people who were asking us to actually block off the Hindley parking lot to prevent people from walking in this summer. So we spent a lot of time working through these issues and in the health environment this summer.
Well, I hope I think this is a good issue in front of the region, and I hope we have more food for thought, and if not food for thought for action on this topic going forward. From our town viewpoint, I don't quite know what to suggest at this point, but I'll feed you the continued thought of the Citizens Advisory Committee as the various towns and region, New York and Connecticut, contemplate what they'd like to do. So for further talk, I think. So the last thing I was just going to bring up, which I think you've probably at this point all heard something about, was this coastal bacteria that seems to have surfaced. And I'll be the first to guess at how you pronounce it, Vibrio vulnificus. If anyone can do better, please do. But that seems to be a fairly serious thing. I guess it's been around in our waters before, but I think there's been 5 cases since July, which is huge. And I think I have something in the past 10 years, there had only been 7 cases reported prior to this. So in this last couple of months, we've doubled the reported cases in a decade of this, which is seems to be a bacteria that can get in your body if you have an open wound and can cause a septic type condition. So a bad infection that can really cause you to lose a limb or even worse. So apparently there's a good chance of dying. Like I think I saw something, 1 in 5 people with this infection could die. So it's a fairly serious thing. especially for older people or people with a pre-existing condition of some sort. And I haven't heard anything more about why this is occurring. Eric Barrett brought up in an email to me, why is this occurring in the same season we've had something called sea lice? I'm not sure what exactly sea lice is, but I heard about it. But I'd be glad for all your thoughts if you've observed things on this or heard more things about it.
You know, I was out like 10 days ago, and then I was out again this past weekend, and it almost looked like there were patches of, for lack of a better term, it almost looked like this, like what you get in Newport, like the red tide kind of thing, where there are these big, almost algae blooms and sort of red discolorations in the water. Seem to be sort of at the head of, you know, Darien Harbor and over towards Ziegler's Cove even, and kind of over near Weed Beach in the bay there. I don't know if anyone else has seen that, but it seemed like I thought the water was so clean this summer and, you know, looked really healthy, and we swam a lot, but the past couple of weeks it looked like it had been a little off. Anyone?
We did get reports of sea lice this summer, and we're in contact with David Knopf, who's the health director. Sea lice, I had never heard them, and they have nothing to do with lice like you think of in your head. But they're basically jellyfish larvae, and just what happens is when you swim, they get up into your bathing suit. It tends to impact women more because we wear tighter bathing suits. And then they react by, you know, they're like getting squeezed, so they react, and then it can cause irritation and rash. It really has to do with just when the water gets warmer, and the water has been beautifully warm this summer. And then more recently, David said there's also something just called swimmer's rash, where you get these little spots also from sort of the jellyfish larvae or whatever. I think I actually got a few of them. They're quite noticeable. But really, they say with the sea lice or whatever, some people can get very bad rashes. They just say the best thing you can do is just as soon as you get out of the water is completely rinse yourself off, and then get out of your wet bathing suit as soon as you can, and then wash that bathing suit before you use it again. But other than some people who get very bad rashes, it's not like this other bacteria that Bill was mentioning, but we absolutely had reports of it this summer, on top of everything else.
I didn't see any of our town officials send out emails on it. I'd emailed with Pam Geary and David Knopf, but I didn't, it's probably my fault, I didn't see any follow-up email. Did any of you get either a notification from the health department because of your clam fishing license, or some blast from Pam Geary? I haven't checked the website if that was, but I had reached out to them just asking if they thought that was a good idea, and they both thought they could reach out to some populations, you know, from the email list. But I'll follow up with
Bill,
them, because I think.
Bill.
Yes.
Yeah, Bill, it looked like they sent out an email to all the people with clamming licenses about the bacteria. And I actually replied and said that we saw some red tide as well, and the Shellfish Beds hotline didn't indicate that any of the beds were closed. And what were their thoughts on that? And they came back and reiterated that the beds were never closed since the last call on July 14th update, and that Shellfish Beds were open and ready to go. Now, I was supposed to go out clamming Saturday. The tides were right. We were going out. And Flip actually noted that from his house, he saw what appeared to be a red tide, and maybe it wouldn't be such a great idea, so we didn't go.
Well, I'm glad David got the word out. Yeah, no, that sounds distressing. Flip, is it an equivalent of red tide? Does it have that toxicity in it? Do people know at this point?
I think there are various types of what I'll call red or brown tides. And depending on which algae species you have, you can have toxicity. So I don't know which variety it was, but clearly there were big rust stains out in the water and in the Darien Harbor, all the way up to Rings End Bridge. You could see it. So it just didn't look very appetizing to me. I don't know what the variety of algae was.
Yeah, who wants to test it themselves? Discouraging. I mean, Flip, I think you once took a great, you did a drone shot of Darien Harbor and caught some of those blooms. I think it was 2 years ago.
Yeah.
They were extensive.
Yeah, this would have looked similar to those.
I was up at Nantucket that year, and literally like a couple weeks after you took the shot, and I remember I felt just an ounce of feeling slightly better that it wasn't just Darien and Long Island Sound, because Nantucket's shores were covered with and this was on the outer shore, covered with the same type of thing, going out like 50 yards offshore.
It's a pretty frequent occurrence up in Newport, over near First and Second Beach there. You get it, see it all the time up there.
Well, anyways, I think it's discouraging, especially the Vibrio, which, I guess 5 cases, you say, well, that's not going to happen to me. But, when I hear you can get it from a wound, I've got a nick or a scratch or a cut on my hands or feet all the time. So it's discouraging. And I'm not sure if it's climate change related, warming seas, or, but anyway, discouraging fact. So.
Hey,
I think it was
hey,
great
Bill,
the way
Bob.
Deep
Hey, Bill.
podcasted.
Hey, Bill, Bob Bilter, what were the symptoms that caused people to, be checked out to go see a medical professional?
Good question. I don't know. How do you notice your infection? I would assume if they're talking, and this is just an assumption, that if they're talking about a wound as an entrance, that the wound first gets infected, travels from there. But I don't know. Anyway. Well, listen, that's it for the chairman's report. So unless there's any more on those topics, I was going to shift over, Tom, to you on the Harbor Master's report, if you've got some items to bring forward.
Just a couple. It has been a very bizarre year for the Harbor Master. We have had fiscal year to date, 40 people join our wait list. If I include the July and August, it's now up to 59. 59 new applicants this year. The wait list is now over 160 people. It's just, I bought a boat, I need a mooring. Okay, how about 3 to 4 years? No, that can't happen. I bought a boat, I have a place to put it. I'm going to call Jamie. Well, I don't work for Jamie. You can call the governor. Mostly under people understanding it, but some very rude people, understanding it. The other side of it is I've seen some very bizarre navigation skills as people approach different harbors, whether it be Darien Harbor, Ziegler's Cove, which if you haven't seen it during this summer, it is just absolutely nuts with people cramming in there, boats of all sizes. Unfortunately for my wife and I, people discovered Scott Cove, and that has been very, very crowded this season. Forgetting Fish Island, and people are not paying any attention to the private line that was drawn in the sand. Again, not understanding what's going on, and just bizarre boating. And it's just the size of the new boats that people are buying are absolutely nuts. Not the worst one. The most interesting one I've seen is a fairly large boat, probably 35 feet long, with 4 450 outboard engines on the back. For tooling around here, it's just crazy. And the weird thing is, he parked in Scott Cove, and as he left, he ran over an underwater reef. And fortunately, he was able, because he had the engine power, to pull himself back off. But it's just been one of those unbelievably crazy years. And I hope it doesn't continue into next season, next year. But that's really all that's going on. But
Yeah, we like to amuse ourselves watching people try to raft up at Ziegler's. It can be really very entertaining. But
I just,
Tom, is there a limitation on how many boats can be on one raft? Because we saw last weekend 4 really big boats on one mooring rafted up, and the police went right by.
that's
There were like
the issue.
4 40-footers on one mooring.
That's the issue, Lori, is that the town code says 3. The police will let up to 5 in theory, as long as, you know, they anchor so they don't spin. But there's no enforcement of it.
No,
And
there's not.
I've asked many, many times, and I've stopped asking because they just don't know how to enforce it. So
You drive up to them and say, break up your raft.
yeah, and then they leave and they raft up back again. I mean, that's the issue. Is it? I mean, I watched
Like,
it
if you have
multiple
one-
times.
Yeah, but if you have one boat on a mooring and all the other 5 boats put their anchors out, I mean, are they on mooring just because they're rafted up? Is that against the rules if they have their own anchor out? I don't know.
Tom, they're not putting their own anchors out, trust me.
That rule is about raft ups. It's not really about being on moorings.
Okay.
The fact that you have anchors out doesn't make any difference, I don't think. But Tom's still right. No, there's no enforcement of it.
Yeah, it's just like the no wake zone areas. I've watched people, you know, come by me at, you know, half speed, half throttle. It's just like, you know, and you wave to them to slow down, and they look at you and wave back. It's again, there's a lot of new boaters that don't know any of the rules, and it's just very difficult to manage. But that's really all I have to talk about.
Hey, Tom, for next year's season, have the no wake zone buoys been pulled out already?
No,
this
they
year?
both of them got damaged in Darien Harbor, and we put one back in. I replaced one, and it's actually dead center of the channel, right near where the Coast Guard buoys are, in the center line.
Sort of collapsed. It looks sort of collapsed, right? Like they had lost air and sucked in. Was that an issue, or was it that they got hit?
They got hit.
Oh, okay.
And I ordered a new one, and it's the new one is actually sitting on the shore, and Jeff made the decision, and I agreed with him. It was the end of the season, and we just put the one in the center of the channel. The same happens, you know, there's one in front of Ziegler's, and there's one in front of Scott Cove. People just completely ignore them.
Tom,
And again,
what about in the Darien Harbor one? What about next year trying to move those out so that they sort of line up with the red and green buoys? I notice it takes people seemingly a couple hundred feet to actually stop their boat. They come zooming in. And now that there's more and more boats with moorings along the west side of Long Neck Point, it might make sense to just push them out a little bit farther if we could.
I will, that requires Coast Guard approval, but that's a very good suggestion, and I'll see if I can get that over the winter season.
Okay,
Usually they're pretty good about that.
great.
Tom, do you think the Marine Police Unit has been doing enough to, you know, throw some, you know, fear of the police out with the boaters? Like in previous seasons, they've sat outside and, you know, outside the harbor and turned their lights on and written some tickets, and that served as a pretty strong signal, I thought, in one season in particular.
I haven't asked them how many tickets they've written this year, but last year it was not a lot. And at one point, I don't think it was last year, I think the year before, I sat with them on the boat as they pulled over a person who was driving through the mooring field, which again is against town rules, or, you know, state rules. You're supposed to come out to the center of the channel. And the interesting thing is the operator of the boat was the husband of the first select person. So again, but it's just this year they have been patrolling a lot more than they have in the past. But that's what they're doing, is they're patrolling. They're not really writing any tickets. I haven't asked them, but I will, and let you
They have
guys know how many tickets they've written this season.
They have a change in personnel on the boat also, don't they? Because Derek Mulcahy, Officer Mulcahy, is now shoreside, right? Might there be a break-in that the new guys are undertaking, and maybe it would help for them to hear of this problem more actively?
It's the pilots of the boat are not newbies. They're seasoned officers. Dan Earhart is one of them. Mike, I can't remember Mike's last name. I should know it, but I can't. So there's always a seasoned pilot on the boat, almost all the time. Yes, there are new people on the boat, and Derek is the sergeant that oversees the boat, and he's been out a couple of times this year. So I think we have seasoned operators or seasoned pilots of the boat, and they have responded to a couple of calls. A couple of them weren't Darien instances, but they have, when that boat caught fire over in coming out of Ziegler's Cove, they were there. They were the first to arrive. Mm-hmm. So, any other questions?
I gotta say, on part of the Darien Marine Police, I had a conversation with him one time early in the season, sort of about raft ups, and there was a handful of boats rafted up with conservatively 35 people, all at one during kind of prime shelter in place pandemic kind of thing. And I asked him about it, and I give those guys a lot of credit. They were as polite as could be. They're out there trying to keep the peace, and but they didn't have a lot of authority to break those kind of things up, and what they said to me is, in that situation, by the people being on the boat together, they'd sort of agreed amongst themselves to enter that risk zone, right? But the cops were really friendly, and they were out, policing and doing their thing. And I had a number of interactions with them this summer. I thought they were doing a great job. So just for the record.
I agree with you, Grant. They're doing the best that they can in the current circumstances. Okay.
All right. Well, should we perhaps close with just a little update on what's happening at the respective clubs? Curious how the season's gone and how do things look to be wrapping up.
Well, as the Vice Commodore of the Darien Boat Club, I could tell you that it was a very good season. All of the slips were filled quite quickly, as they always are. I think the wait list is still upwards of 10 years, right, Tom? For most boats. Tom has been, as past Commodore, done a great job of trying to reorganize some of the positions, the sizes of the slip, so we can get more boaters on it. But all in all, it's been a very good season for the Darien Boat Club.
I've missed the picnics.
Yeah, I was thinking about last Saturday night.
And the end of season tent party that we have was also canceled.
Yeah, bummer.
Anybody want to speak on the Roten Yacht Club?
Yeah, well, for lack of anybody else is welcome to chime in. We got a lot of members of both clubs on this phone call, but it was very active season at Noroton. Probably more sailing man hours than we've ever had, and a lot of people exploring old-fashioned new boats, a lot of sunfishes, and a lot of single-handed sailing going on. So I think overall it was a very successful season. We, knock on wood, were able to get through the summer with all of our junior programs and our seniors, and our adult racing, without any kind of specific COVID issues of people getting sick at the club or anything else, or spreading the disease through the club. So I think it was all good. Pretty much everybody had a good summer.
Hey, Flip, I know there was coordination amongst, I think it was 7 yacht clubs, sort of a little grouping of yacht clubs up and down the coast with Norotan, maybe leading the charge in there, so sharing best practices. How have the other clubs fared? Have you been sort of privy about, you know,
Yeah,
the other?
I think whether it's golf clubs or yacht clubs, I think there has been a lot of coordination over the past 6 months among different clubs. There have been other clubs definitely where some of the launch drivers tested positive, or some of the camp counselors tested positive, or some of the, but overall, I would say there was no club that felt like it was, really getting out of control. There was no club that shut down its operations. I would say that it does seem that to be outside in the sunshine and the wind and salt water seems like a fairly difficult environment for the disease to spread. It does not seem like any of the yacht clubs really had a big problem.
Here.
You also had a very aggressive testing of people entering the club, which was nice to see, with temperature scans and make sure everybody's wearing masks.
Yeah, I don't think we actually tested anyone having a positive, a fever this summer. We probably tested several thousand foreheads, and I don't think we found anyone.
It's like an inch and a half thick of names and temperatures from June or so. But my experience at Norotan, and you guys chime in too, but I think everyone took it very seriously, and it was nice to see. Only limited outside guests for dining on like one night a week, and I think all the members took each other's members' health very seriously. So I thought it was pretty good.
Yeah, we had a nice class 3 days last week. It was sort of safety at sea. It was sort of born out of discussion myself and a few other women had with WIM over the summer, over a margarita on Annie J. But the course was called Mayday, Mayday, my husband's fallen off the boat, what do I do? But WIM brought in a fellow, Rick Del Flossie, some of you may know, and Candy Wood, who cruise all around the world and covered, radio usage, tying up, knowing your electronics and systems. It was really, really good course. And, hopefully it helped build awareness and more people understanding, safety on the water. So it was good. And I think we're going to try to repeat it in the future.
Lori, was the first answer to that question, call your insurance broker and increase your policy?
Yeah, well, there was some discussion. Yeah, one of the scenarios, Tom Ross was floating out to sea. And Wim was playing the Coast Guard guy. And he goes, do you know what to do? And Ann said, sort of. So anyway, but it's really, with a focus on more of us cruising more and really, realizing that we need to, up our skills in terms of knowing the keys, what do you do when a man overboard, things of that nature. So it was really good. So I don't know if the boat clubs ever thought about something like that, but it was, the more boaters realize, what can happen, the better.
Was Lynn Oliver involved with that? She had done a course like that at the Power Squadron for a number of years.
No, I don't think so, but it was good. It was quite well attended.
Well, I've got nothing more to add. Is there any additional business or items people would like to bring up?
No, sir.
If not, then I think we'll adjourn. And with my apologies for my internet, again, not acting well, and hopefully on our next round that is better, but thanks for all having patience. And I'll reach out to you in the next week or so on details of October 3 cleanup on the beaches, and we'll look forward to seeing a few of us out there, hopefully a lot. So I think that should be a quick and rewarding morning anyway. So if that's it, I'll adjourn and say goodnight to everybody.
All right.
Thanks, everybody.
Good night, everybody. Be safe.
We'll see
All
you.
right.